Billionaire sees homeless woman begging in the rain with her baby right there on a slick Manhattan curb. Under a flickering streetlight, a billionaire steps out of a black sedan and freezes at the sight of a homeless woman begging in the rain with her baby. And what happens next when he takes her home will make you speechless. Grant Whitaker, young billionaire, razor-calm deal-maker, a man who buys broken companies and makes them sing, locks eyes with a mother whose cardboard sign is dissolving in the downpour, her infant pressed to her chest. Shivering, the billionaire sees the homeless woman, the rain, the baby, the soaked stroller, the paper cup with 3 coins, and he does the one thing his money can't make easy. He kneels. People film. Drivers honk. A security detail panics. Grant says, "Come with me." She hesitates. Trust is more expensive than a penthouse, but the baby coughs. He opens the car door. She steps back. He offers his coat. She flinches. He offers his name. She gives none. The billionaire takes her home. But who is she when the rain dries? Why does her baby squeeze that frayed blue ribbon like a secret? And why does Grant tremble when he recognizes the scar on her wrist? Grant Whitaker didn't usually notice faces at street level. The city was a blur of umbrellas and headlights to him, a dashboard of numbers and deals and the hum of his driver asking, "Whitaker Tower, sir?" But the rain that night came down like a decision, washing the world to first truths. Through the tinted glass, he saw her slender under an oversized denim jacket, hair plastered to her cheeks, eyes fixed not on passing strangers, but on the sleeping infant curved like a comma against her collarbone. She wasn't panhandling with the practice call of someone who'd given up. She was guarding. That difference snagged him. "Pull over," Grant said. "Sir, you're 7 o'clock. His aide in the front seat began. "Pull over," he repeated. The sedan hissed against the curb. Grant stepped out into rain so cold it felt like honesty. The woman tightened her grip on the baby and turned her body to shield him. The cardboard sign, limp as seaweed, flapped against the stroller. "Safe tonight, please." Up close, the illusion of categories, billionaire, homeless, collapsed into 2 human beings, staring through a storm. Grant crouched, aware of cameras lifting and passing hands, aware of his security detail fanning to create a discreet perimeter, aware of his own heart doing something reckless. "Hi," he said, voice low, the way you talk to a skittish horse or a frightened child. "I'm Grant. You look cold." She didn't answer. Her eyes were a startled green that read exits. The baby a boy. From the blue knit cap and the brave little fists stirred and coughed. A wet catch that made Grant's chest tighten. He shrugged off his cashmere coat and held it out. She flinched but didn't run. "I can get you both dry," he said. "Food. A doctor to listen to his lungs." "Doctors ask questions," she whispered, as if the rain might tattle. "Good ones," Grant said, "but only if you say yes." He swallowed. "Please." He didn't say why the word please tasted like memory. He didn't say he had once waited in the rain himself, 15. Angry, backpack torn, standing outside a shelter with a mother who looked so tired her bones seemed to fold. He didn't say a stranger's outstretched hand, a spare room, and a hot bowl of stew had rerouted his entire life. He only held the coat and waited. She searched his face as if a lie might glow there. After a count of 3, his heart could have sworn it was 30. She nodded. The nod was so small it nearly drowned in the rain, but it was a yes. He opened the car door. She slipped inside, curling around the baby, still not giving a name. When he slid in opposite her, he noticed what he hadn't seen on the curb, a thin white scar along her inner left wrist, a crescent that made something old turn over inside him, a detail he couldn't yet place. "Home," he told the driver, and the car leapt forward, city lights breaking apart and rejoining like thoughts. Inside Whitaker Tower's private lift, the woman kept her head bowed, water dripping from the ends of her hair, soaking the limousine blanket his aide had offered. The baby's cough softened into breathy whimpers. Grant keyed the penthouse. The elevator doors opened to high windows and dry quiet, to a room staged for success. Museum art, stone, steel, but rarely used for living. His life looked like a glossy advertisement for absence. Bathrooms through there, he said. I'll have fresh towels brought, and soup, and whatever you want. She took a step, then paused, eyes snagging on a photograph. A grainy Polaroid of a teenage boy and a woman in a thrift store coat, both grinning like they didn't know how to pose. The only personal thing in the room, the only proof he'd come from anywhere. She studied it like a map. He watched her watch his past. It was raining that day too, he said before he could stop himself. We didn't have umbrellas. Rain shows what's true, she murmured, and something like surprise flickered across her face as if she hadn't planned to say it out loud. Then she crossed to the bathroom. When the door closed, Grant exhaled and called the building's concierge doctor, the kind man who never asked for autographs. Newborn cough, he said, keeping his voice low. Tonight. The doctor promised to come. Grant moved through the motions, kettles, blankets, turning up heat like a man rehearsing gentleness he wanted to remember. The security team pinged his phone twice with grainy street videos already circulating. Billionaire Whitaker picks up mystery woman in the rain. He silenced them. For the first time in months, he didn't crave control. He craved being useful. Water shut off. The bathroom door opened. She stepped out barefoot, wrapped in a towel too big for her. Her jeans and jacket balled in her arms. In the stronger light, the scar on her wrist was a little moon. The baby fresh diaper, knit cap in place, blinked awake, pupils wide like tide pools. He clutched, in his tiny hand, a frayed blue ribbon. Grant nodded toward the kitchen island. There's broth, he said, and ginger tea. If you'll let me hold him while you eat, only if you want, I've got clean hands. She hesitated, then surrendered the baby into his arms with the careful reluctance of someone handing over the last whole thing they own. The weight shocked him, not heavy, but consequential. Milo, he decided silently. He looked like a Milo. The baby studied Grant's face as if marking it for later. What's his name? Grant asked. She looked at the ribbon, not at him. Milo, she said. And for a second he wondered if he'd said the name aloud or if the room was simply doing what rain does, making everything true. Milo, he repeated. And the name felt right in his mouth. He wanted to ask everything at once. How long have you been outside? Who hurt you? Why the scar? Why the ribbon? Instead, he said, I called a doctor. He's kind. Her eyes sharpened. You said no questions. Only if you want help, Grant said gently. I want to help. She sat, hands around the steaming mug like a small winter. She took one sip, then another, the color returning to her lips. He watched the way she counted in her head before each swallow, as if rationing even safety. He recognized that math. He knew what it was to measure good things like they might be taken. The ribbon, he said carefully, nodding at Milo's grip. It's important. Her fingers flew unconsciously to the scar. It's everything, she said, voice flat with a practiced finality that was pure defense. Before he could answer, a soft chime announced the elevator. The doctor stepped in, his leather bag like an amnesty. He examined Milo, listened, smiled. Congestion, he said. No fever, warmth, fluids, rest. He wrote instructions, cast a kindly glance at the mother, and, sensing layers he shouldn't disturb, took his leave. Relief loosened something in Grant's spine. He turned back to the woman, to Milo sleeping again, to the ribbon looped around his fist. He opened his mouth to ask her name, to make this less of a transaction and more of a trust. But she beat him to it. I can't stay, she said. The words landed like a dropped glass. You're safe here, Grant said, surprised by the urgency in his own voice. No one will bother you. Not for tonight. That's the problem, she whispered, eyes wet but fierce. Safety makes you slow. Slow gets you found. Found by whom? She shook her head. People who think a ribbon is a key. Grant's gaze drifted to the scar again. He felt the old ache of the shelter line, of the night a stranger had stepped forward. Sometimes a single choice moved the axis of a life. He didn't know yet why the ribbon mattered, or why the scar felt like a memory he almost had. He only knew the rain had pointed him here for a reason. I'm not asking you to stay forever, he said softly. I'm asking for one dry night. She stared at him as if calibrating whether one night could be bought without selling a future. The city hummed below, a metronome of taxis and sirens. He waited. She closed her eyes, inhaled, exhaled, and gave the smallest nod. Another, yes. Okay, she said. One night. And, I'm Lily. Lily, he repeated, tasting it the way he had tasted Milo's name. It felt like a beginning, or a return. Night in the penthouse behaved like it belonged to someone else. The storm smeared the skyline into watercolor, and the floor-to-ceiling glass kept the I am sound out but let the weight in, so the room felt like a pause between breaths. Grant spread a throw on the long sofa and switched the gas fireplace to low, warm, unspectacular, human. Lily hovered like a shadow that hadn't made up its mind. Milo slept on her chest. The frayed blue ribbon looped under his tiny fingers, as if he'd been born holding on to the one string that wouldn't snap. There's a guest room, Grant said, and heard how guest made her flinch. Or here, if you'd rather. Doors lock. No one comes up without my say. She nodded once and stayed standing. The towel had become a shawl. Her denim jacket, now dry, hung over the arm of the couch like a shed skin she could climb back into if she needed to run. The ribbon flashed when Milo shifted an ordinary thing that behaved like a warning light. Grant made tea he didn't need, and a peanut butter sandwich he wouldn't eat, both from a muscle memory that belonged to a boy who used to scavenge comfort. The kitchen's under-cabinet lights cast long, soft shadows. On the marble island, his phone pulsed with messages. Cole Danvers, his right hand, asking if he was aware number rain rescue was trending. Miranda Prescott, the board chair, reminding him tomorrow's acquisition vote needed 0 surprises. An unknown number sending a single photo. Lily and Milo on the curb, his coat around them, his hand out captioned, "WHO is she?" He put the phone face down. Money multiplied attention. Attention invited harm. My team can bring fresh clothes, he said. No questions. Clothes ask questions. She answered, not unkindly. She sank onto the far end of the sofa, like a swimmer testing water. New means someone paid. Someone asks who. Who means where. You've done this before, he said, and instantly regretted the shape of it. Run? She shifted Milo carefully to the hollow between her shoulder and collarbone. You don't get a baby to sleep by standing still. Grant sat in the accent chair across from her, posture open by design. His therapist, Dr. Yvonne Hale, who had talked him out of turning his childhood into a costume, would have told him to name what the room felt like, so it didn't do the naming for him. I can have security sweep the building, he offered. I can put a car downstairs that no one recognizes, not even the driver. I can change the elevator key codes, alert the desk. If someone is trying to find you, money can make it harder. Money also leaves footprints, Lily said softly. The kind you don't see until you look behind you. He could have argued. He didn't. He understood systems the way some men understood weather. Systems always look like protection from the inside and like a cage from the wrong side of the door. He watched the way her left hand hovered near the scar as if it were a doorbell someone kept pressing. That mark, he said gently. Is it from the people you're hiding? From? Her gaze flicked to his face, gauging the ask. From the person I trusted, she said, and the sentence sounded heavier than the room. You don't make that mistake twice. He thought of his mother turning her thrift store coat inside out to make it look new. Of the night, a stranger named Harold Kincaid saw them in a church basement and didn't turn away. Harold had been a small-town banker with the steady hands of a carpenter and the patience of a farmer. He'd pressed a business card into Grant's palm and said, "When you're ready to be believed, call me." Grant had kept the card under his pillow like a sacrament. Years later, he would stand at Harold's funeral and promise to be the kind of man who made rooms safer than he found them. He had kept the promise with companies. People were harder. How old is Milo? Grant asked. 10 weeks, she said. He likes the sound of water and hates the quiet. He smiles in his sleep. He looks like his the grandfather around the eyes. There it was, plural ghosts in a single sentence. And the ribbon? He asked, nodding to the blue strip caught in Milo's fist. Her fingers closed over it instinctively. The ribbon was satin worn to threadbare softness, the color of a clear August pool. It's from a hospital gift, she said, but the way she said it made hospital sound like a place you visited from a story. She looked past Grant to the window, to the city thrown across the dark like 1,000 unreturned calls. He cried the first day. They said he was fine, but they were wrong. Sometimes the right words are wrong if the person saying them wants you to go. Grant remembered a basement cot and the way he'd counted ceiling tiles to keep from crying loud enough to wake his mother. He set his untouched sandwich down and leaned forward, elbows on knees, palms open. You can rest here. I'll take the chair. She shook her head. I don't sleep heavy. Then, I'll sleep heavy, he said, and the corners of her mouth betrayed a quick, involuntary, almost smile there, then gone. A secret rehearsal. The elevator chimed softly. Grant rose, hand gesturing that he'd check it himself. Cole Danvers slipped in, a tall man with marathoner's calves and the kind of loyalty that didn't need signage. He halted when he saw Lily, recalibrated, then offered a nod as if she were a client and he was grateful for her business. Brought what you asked? Cole said, setting a plain brown duffel by the door. No labels. Pharmacy bag with infant drops. Unmarked onesies. A gray sweater. Toothbrush. No receipts. His eyes moved once more to Lily, to Milo, to the ribbon, and did not linger. Security's tightened. Garage cameras scrubbed. But we need to talk about Prescott. She'll want to know why you became a headline 12 hours before a hostile vote. Not now, Grant said. Text me the board's temperature and a plan if she tries to ice me out. Cole hesitated, then lowered his voice. You're trending at 15 million views. People are trying to reverse image her. I've set blocks, but I know, Grant said. Keep the blocks up. Cole nodded at Lily the way you nod toward a living flame. If anyone comes looking, they'll look wrong first. We'll make sure wrong stays crowded. He slipped out, the chime swallowing his silhouette. Lily watched the door a long second after it closed. You trust him? With my life, Grant said. He caught me when I thought I didn't fall. She smoothed the ribbon between finger and thumb, the motion so habitual it might have been prayer. You keep good people. I try, he said. Harold taught me the math of it. The world subtracts without permission. You add where you can. He nodded at the ribbon. What does it open? Her eyes had that startled green again. You think it's a key. I think people, you hunt, you think it is, he said. And I think you're tired of being a map. For the first time, she looked directly into him. Not at him. The room shrank to the space between two people who had both once wanted a door and found a person instead. The ribbon came from a bassinet tag, she said slowly. From a hospital with a wing that isn't on the brochure. The wing has a door that isn't on the map. Behind the door, the nurses write different names. The floor seemed to tilt and settle. Something old in Grant clicked into place, the scar. The way she counted sips. The reluctance to let objects, not just people, be traced. Why would they do that? He asked, though he already understood that why is the wrong question when money sits in the room. Because sometimes a baby is worth more if he belongs to someone else, she said. And the sentence lay on the table like a weapon no one wanted to touch. I worked there. Before Milo. You were a nurse. I was a runner, she said. A girl who knew how to be invisible in bright hallways. I brought coffee and moved boxes and learned the sounds doors make when they don't want to be heard. And one night, the name in the bassinet didn't match the eyes. I untied the ribbon and put it in my pocket. Grant felt the steady, careful way his own breathing slowed. The way he did before calling a bluff in a room full of men who thought the game belonged to them. And someone noticed. They noticed everything except the worst thing, she said. Until I gave birth. Then the worst thing came looking. The wind pressed rain against glass. The city answered with sirens several blocks away. Milo snuffled, sighed, and kept sleeping. The ribbon shone a little in the firelight. Will they come here? Grant asked. They follow the kind of help that looks like yours, she said. But you're not like the others. How do you know? Because you asked for my name after you said please. She adjusted Milo's cap, her hand steady now. And because you looked at him like a person, not a headline. He felt the compliment and the responsibility it carried. Then we make a plan, he said. Morning is farther away in the rain, but it still comes. She nodded once. He dragged the armchair closer to the sofa and let his body weight sink into it like a pledge. She lay down slowly, keeping Milo anchored on her chest and the ribbon threaded through her fingers. Her eyes drifted closed, then snapped open again, then finally gentled and stayed that way. Grant trained his focus on the elevator panel, on the door latch, on the stretched out night. Sometime after 2, he drifted into a pocket of sleep and dreamed of blue ribbons tied to door handles in unmarked corridors, and of a boy standing in the rain counting to 10 before he allowed himself to hope. He woke to the sound of his name, Grant, in a voice not Lily's, from a memory not finished with him, and the realization that the scar on Lily's wrist matched the semicircle mark a plastic band had once left on his own. Not the same shape, but the same language. He didn't move. He waited for the city to bleed into gray. He waited for morning to make the shadows tell the truth. Morning arrived like a verdict, quiet, cool, and cleaner than the night that delivered it. The storm had rinsed the city until the streets looked new, but the air inside the penthouse held the delicate balance of a first promise not to make sudden moves. Grant woke with the armchair imprinting lines in his shoulder, and Lily already upright, hair rope-dried into loose waves, Milo drowsing at her collarbone. The ribbon blue, threadbare, stubborn, cut a thin horizon across her fingers. I made coffee, she said, voice hushed as if brokers might still be sleeping under the marble. Grant blinked, straightened, and took the mug she offered. You slept? In pieces, she said, like a window that held. He tried a smile and it almost stayed. Cole's overnight updates sat stacked on his phone like fragile plates. Prescott consolidating votes. 3 tabloids with Lily's pixelated outline on the curb. A private number sending him a looped street clip of himself kneeling in rain. Captioned, Whitaker picks up trouble. The bites had the thin stink of a threat pitched as public interest. We need to talk about today, Grant said. There's a board vote at noon. It decides whether I keep the company I built or watch it become a brand new name on the door. If Miranda Prescott wins, she'll push me out and sell Whitaker Holdings for parts. Lily glanced at Milo's sleeping mouth and then at Grant's face, measuring which needed more gentleness. You don't look like a man who loses what he built. I look like a man who made enemies who are good at smiling, he said. And at noon, those smiles get counted. He took a breath. The easiest way to protect you is to put distance between us until after the vote. The hardest way is the one I want. What's the hardest way? She asked, though part of her already knew. You can hear the sound of a person deciding to stand between you and a moving thing. Tell me everything, he said. Let me use it. She sat on the edge of the couch. The fire from last night was a polite ghost in the grate. She kept her eyes on Milo when she spoke. The hospital is called Westbridge, she said. The ribbon came from a bassinet tag in their North Annex. The North Annex doesn't exist on the visitor map. It smells like lemon cleaner and new tires, and the nurses call it the quiet wing because the babies don't cry there. Why don't they cry? He asked, though he already suspected the answer the way you suspect rain before the first cold drop. Because someone rocks them like a clock, Lily said, mouth flattening, and because if they cry, someone might ask why they're there. My job was deliveries, coffee, packages, files. No one signed for. I learned who needed door codes and who didn't. I learned that Dr. Avery Sloan wore a silver watch worth more than my mother's house, and that paperwork looks honest when the ink is still wet. Grant felt the therapist's advice ride in on an old current name, the thing so it doesn't name you. You're describing an adoption funnel? I'm describing a market, Lily said, and the word market came out knife clean. They labeled it streamlining placement for difficult cases. They added a consulting arm to manage expectant mother care. The mothers were told their babies would go to people who could afford piano lessons and summer camp. They weren't told that the babies had been promised before delivery. They weren't told you can change a name without changing what a person belongs to. Who runs it? Grant asked. Sloan. Sloan signs the charts, she said. He doesn't open the accounts. That's not done in a lab coat. The name steeped in his mind like tea too long in water. Somewhere in a deal book on his shelf was a footnote: Westbridge Foundation, Prescott Family Fund, naming rights for the new wing. He set the mug down carefully. I didn't mean to take the ribbon, she said after a beat. It wasn't a plan. The baby in that bassinet had eyes that didn't match the name. I untied the ribbon to tie his blanket tighter and the tag fell off. I slipped the ribbon into my pocket because my hands didn't know what to do otherwise. I told myself it was just a color, just a strip that smelled like baby lotion. But when I got home, I saw the code stamped into the satin. 6 digits. I thought about it every shift after. I started seeing ribbons everywhere. What is the code open? He asked. A storage room in the north annex, she said. Behind the supply shelves is another door. It looks like wall. The code wakes it. Inside are vacuum-sealed bags of papers, pre-signed releases, donor receipts, wiring instructions. I found it by accident on a night the lights flickered. The door glowed for a second like a bruise and then it was gone. And you took something? The question carried a risk. It might make her a thief in a story that preferred martyrs. I took a photo, she said. One. On my worst phone. In airplane mode. A file with 2 names in different orders. A bank transfer. A signature that didn't match the way the person signed their own name in front of me 2 hours earlier. Her throat worked. I thought if I knew for sure, I could stop it. Then I got pregnant. And the only thing worse than knowing there's a fire is having a baby when the building is full of smoke. Who is Milo's father? Lily. The question hung not as accusation but as a bridge to more. She didn't look away. A man who wanted to be good and wasn't. A resident who said he'd report it when he had leverage. Leverage turned out to be a quiet room and a contract. I left. I thought I left clean. The week after Milo was born, my apartment door lock had a scratch that hadn't been there the night before. I started moving. The ribbon came with me. Grant tasted the metal edge of old helplessness in his mouth, the flavor of a night when he'd wanted to pick a lock with a bobby pin and put his mother's life in a different drawer. He took out his wallet and slid a creased photo across the table. It was the Polaroid from the shelf. A teen boy with rain-flattened curls and a woman in a thrift store coat. Harold Kincaid, he said, tapping the corner. He found us when we had nothing but damp socks and 2 bus tickets. He gave me his business card. I slept with it under my pillow until the ink wore off. I built everything on the idea that one person with a key can change a story. Lily considered the photo the way a person considers a door they want to believe is unlocked. Do you think your story started at that church? She asked. Or at a different door? He let the question find its way through him. His mother had told soft, selective stories about his birth. You came early, baby, always with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. His original birth certificate was a reissue stamped after a municipal flood destroyed records. The hospital listed had closed. He remembered a plastic bracelet from a childhood box, its impression leaving a half moon on his wrist when he pressed too hard. He looked at Lily's scar and felt an echo the way a canyon returns your name with an added question mark. I don't know where mine started, he said evenly, but I know I'm going to finish this chapter on purpose. He stood. We go at noon. I'll face the vote. Cole will keep this floor quiet. After, we pay Westbridge a visit they can't. Roll a card in front of. You talk like money can't be made to look like charity, she said, but there was no mockery in it, just experience. Money can be scrubbed, he said. Motives less so. If Prescott's fund is tied to Sloan's wing, there's a trail. We'll pull it. He paused. We'll keep you and Milo ahead of anyone who thinks a ribbon is a map. She looked at her son, then at the city, then at the ribbon again. People like this don't send texts, she said. They send men who know how to look like delivery. As if conjured, the elevator panel blinked. Not the soft chime of someone with a code, but the mechanical cough of a system being asked a question it didn't like. Grant crossed to the console and checked the feed. A man in a courier jacket stood in the private lift vestibule holding a white box with no label and the kind of smile that telegraphed nothing. Cole's text hit at the same moment. Do not open. Prescott moved the vote up. 9 a.m. Also, we picked a tail at street level. Possible hospital security contractor. 3 men. 1 courier. A fingertip thudded once against the door like a punctuation mark that didn't match the sentence. Lily's hand tightened on the ribbon. Milo stirred and hiccuped. Grant met her eyes and felt the room contract to a plan. Grant lifted a finger, a quiet weight, and crossed to the steel door. Every step measured. The courier on the camera didn't blink much. Men trained for routine learned to be wallpaper. The white box had the wrong weight in his hands. Too light to be real food. Too neat to be a neighbor's apology. Grant tapped the console twice, looping the vestibule feed to a recording from last week. An elderly florist delivery to the penthouse 2 floors down so anyone monitoring the building line would see petals, not questions. He called Cole on speaker and kept his voice low. Vestibule, courier, no label. Already on it. Cole, said, a faint echo of running in the background. Lobby cameras showed 2 suits pretending to be bad at waiting. Hospital contractor badges on lanyards, cheap clones. They think this is a soft approach. Prescott moved the vote to 9, trying to catch you juggling. Give me 90 seconds, Grant said. Pull the fire control on the service corridor. Sector off our floor and the 2 above. I want the courier redirected to stairwell C. Copy. A click. Silence collapsed into the buttery hush of a high-rise that keeps secrets for a living. Grant cut the audio and turned to Lily. We're not opening that door, he said. Cole will rout him into a mistake. You and Milo go into the study left of the fireplace. There's a secondary exit through the library panels. It comes out on a maintenance catwalk that leads to my neighbor's unused storage unit. No cameras. If anyone breaches here, you slip through and keep moving until you hit the red exit bar. I'll meet you there if we split. Lily didn't ask how he knew the building's bones well enough to move through them like a pianist. She shifted Milo gently into the baby wrap, threaded the blue ribbon so it lay across his chest like a sash, and stood. You'll go to your vote? I'll go to my vote, he said, and then I'll come back with sunlight. She nodded once, no theatrics, and disappeared into the study, the hidden panel admitting her with a click that was more whisper than sound. The penthouse felt larger without her in it and at the same time smaller, as if the air had recognized which side of the story it wanted to be on. The intercom crackled. Courier is in stairwell C, Cole said. He's not thrilled. 2 suits on the move to intercept. I have Kellen and May in the stairwell above them. If the courier gets cute, he gets lost. Grant allowed himself half a breath. Don't touch them unless they touch first, he said. I want them, leaving fingerprints, not bruises. Understood. Cole paused. Miranda pinged. She's in the boardroom early, coffee in hand, asking where our fearless leader is. Grant glanced at the clock. 8:17. A lifetime and 43 minutes. He moved to the entry, collected the brown duffel Cole had delivered, and unzipped it. The sweater, plain and soft. A pair of sneakers, an identical burner phone to the one in his pocket. He swapped devices and tossed the old phone into the sink, turned on the garbage disposal, watched plastic become confession. He changed into the sweater, instantly less Whitaker holdings and more man with a plan. The elevator panel pinged a single tone, his private code returning green. Cole again. We dangled a decoy, he said. A temp signed for a delivery on 12. The suits took the bait. I've got them arguing with a woman named Dora who's never wrong about anything. If God has a receptionist, it's Dora. Send Dora. Flowers, Grant said. And a new chair. He slid his hand along the library shelves until his thumb found the groove that released the hidden door. The narrow passage beyond smelled faintly of sawdust and lemon oil, a human scent in a building of steel. I'm moving Lily to the catwalk. Cover our ghost trail. Already scrubbing, Cole said. Prescott's assistant just sent another message. Board waiting. Shall we proceed without you? I told her you were on your way and that legal wanted 5 minutes to review the amended agenda. She didn't like that. Miranda Prescott rarely liked delays that weren't her own. Grant pictured her in the boardroom, impeccable bob, bracelets quiet but not silent, smile calibrated to make men think they'd thought of her idea first. He'd admired her once, the way a climber admires a clean line-up granite. He'd also read the tax filings for her family fund and circled the check written to Westbridge for neonatal innovation. The catwalk was a throat of grating and shadow between walls. Lily stood at its midpoint, rocking on her heels, Milo's cheek against her collarbone. The ribbon lay like a horizon on baby skin. She looked calmer in the narrow space than she had in the cathedral-wide living room. People who live in flight learn to breathe in small places. Change of plan, he said softly. Cole's got our visitors arguing with a hurricane in human form. I'm taking you two down to the service garage and putting you in my mother's car. Your mother's car? Lily's eyebrows lifted, the question gentle. It's registered in her maiden name, he said. She keeps it for grocery runs. No one ever notices a beige sedan with a dog blanket in the back seat. He caught her half-smile. My mother calls it the cloak. She taught me that the most powerful thing in a room is whatever everyone is bored by. They moved quick and quiet, the catwalk yielding to a maintenance stair that led to a corridor lined with electrical panels. Grant swiped his access card. A steel door released them into a garage that hummed with expensive machines dreaming of errands. In a far corner under bad lighting sat the beige sedan. The dog blanket was folded with love. Grant opened the back door. There's a diaper bag under the seat with cash, a basic first aid kit, and a prepaid card registered to a shell we use for holiday tips. Drive to Kincaid House, on 74th Blue Door. Ivy. Looks like a place that bakes cookies for grief. Ruth Kincaid runs it. She's the one Harold left me to when he left the world. Tell her I sent you. She will not write your name down, even if you ask. Kincaid, Lily repeated, as if making a small knot in a rope she intended to keep. And you? I'll be in a room with glass walls and men who pretend they can see the future, he said. Cole will meet you at Kincaid after, if I'm delayed. Her hand went to the ribbon, then to his sleeve. It was the first time she'd reached for him. You talk like you've already worked out both endings. I've worked out 5, he said. The one where we win is the least interesting to tell, but the most important to live. A laugh caught in her throat and almost happened. I used to tell scared mothers that too, she murmured, that the boring ending is the best one. He closed the door gently and tapped the roof, an old gesture from a childhood of borrowed rides. Go, he said. Stay 2 cars behind anyone who looks like they're in a hurry. Lily pulled out without fuss, the beige sedan folding itself into the ordinary. He watched it go until it was gone, then turned and headed for the private elevator that accessed the underground tunnel to Whitaker Holdings. Cole's voice met him at the doors. Miranda's bringing a surprise guest, Cole said. Guess which white coat got an invite to the boardroom? Avery Sloan, Grant said, the name tasting like a sterile hallway. Bingo. Presumably to christen the Prescott wing of whatever they're laundering this month. They're going to sell community partnership while they cut you out. Let's give them a different show, Grant said. The elevator opened, and he stepped into a corridor that narrowed his focus to the distance ahead. Patch me into legal. I want the camera recording policy for charitable partnerships up on the screen before I walk in. Then pull the Westbridge filing with the donor acknowledgement and the ribboned bassinet photo Lily described. If we're lucky, their PR team posted 6 months ago about newborn joy, and never imagined anyone would read the metadata. Cole whistled, low. I'll have it in the deck. Also, Dora texted me a gif of a stamp that says nope. The courier tried to sneak onto 12 with a story about cupcakes. You were right. Wrong stayed crowded. Grant smiled without softness. He adjusted his sweater sleeves, rolled his shoulders, and thought of the ribbon of what he now believed it meant, not just to Lily but to the map of his own beginning. He thought of his mother's thrift store coat and the way she had winced at certain hospital names. He thought of Harold handing him a card in a church basement where the coffee was bad and the grace was better. He was not going to let a woman who renamed babies put a hand on the wheel of anything he built. He stepped out of the tunnel into the lobby of Whitaker Holdings, into glass and green plants and the slow spin of a world that liked to pretend it wasn't always turning. Security dipped their heads. Assistants pivoted. Elevator doors opened as if they knew a beat that matched his step. He entered. He rose. The boardroom stretched like a runway, all glass and confidence, with views that made even bad decisions look expensive. Miranda Prescott sat at the head of the table as if she'd inherited the chair from a dynasty, bracelets quiet, smile loaded. Beside her, Dr. Avery Sloan arranged his cuff in the slow, sterile way of someone who preferred tools to people. A projector hummed with the pre-meeting loop of the company logo, serene as a screensaver on a sinking ship. When Grant stepped in wearing a plain gray sweater instead of a victory suit, the room registered it like a glitch. "Grant," Miranda said, her voice sugared with concern. "You've had a dramatic evening. We thought it best to move the vote up, given market instability." "Morning to you too," he said, walking to his seat without looking at it, the way a man walks through his own house in the dark. Cole slid into a chair 2 down, a laptop open, eyes steady. "Legal counsel." Victoria Ng nodded once, a warning, and a readiness. "We'll proceed with the agenda," Miranda began, already satisfied with her order of events. After preliminary remarks, "Dr. Sloan we're changing the agenda," Grant said. He didn't raise his voice. He simply put his hand on the table like a key. "Before any vote, we'll review compliance with our charitable partnership policy." "Victoria," he looked at Ng, who had already flipped the screen to a section in clean legal font. "Due diligence standards for healthcare-related donations. The policy, written in Grant's second year and mostly forgotten since, required a reputational audit for partners managing sensitive populations." Miranda's smile thinned into the shape of a line item. "We're all aware of policy, Grant. Westbridge Foundation is beyond reproach." "Avery?" Sloan inclined his head, eyes blank with practiced benevolence. "Westbridge is a pioneer in neonatal innovation," he said, and on cue the projector brought up the slides of perfect babies in clean blankets, mothers smiling like brochures. Miranda's fund logo glowed discreetly in the corner, as if it belonged there more than the babies did. Cole didn't clear his throat. He didn't need to. The photo changed, same frame, different heartbeat. Metadata slid into view in tiny text at the bottom, timestamp and location, with a camera model that happened to belong to a Westbridge staff photographer. Cole zoomed. Above the bassinet card in the corner of the shot, a blue ribbon. Zoom again. The ribbon had 6 faint digits stamped in heat press ink. Not decorative. Functional. "Cute ribbon," Miranda said, too quickly. "Door code," Grant said. The room didn't move, but it cooled. Behind that door sit vacuum-sealed bags with pre-signed releases, donor receipts, and wiring instructions. Unmapped annex. No baby voices. Your fund's name on the wall outside. Miranda laughed the way people do when a laugh is cheaper than an argument. "Conspiracy theories from tabloid threads. Is this really where we take Whitaker Holdings, Grant?" "Victoria," he said, and Ng was already there, projecting the specific clause that allowed a pause on any board action if undisclosed risk could materially impact the company's reputation or legal standing. A pause didn't need a vote. It needed a credible assertion on record. The board members shifted, scenting a safe harbor in procedure. Sloan leaned forward, palms up, the universal sign for, "Let me be reasonable. Mr. Whitaker, hospitals protect patient privacy. There are areas not open to the public. We all value. Why do babies in the North Annex have their names changed before discharge?" Grant asked. "Why are releases signed with signatures that don't match the same hand, same day? Why is there a consultant invoice to a Prescott entity labeled Streamline Placement Difficult Cases?" He looked at Miranda then, cleanly. "Would you like me to read out the routing numbers?" The air left the room in an inaudible whoosh. Board members who collected vintage wines and carefully cultivated neutrality found sudden reasons to study their water glasses. Miranda's composure shifted a millimeter, which for her was as loud as a slap. "You're grandstanding. I'm litigating prudence," he said. "We pause the vote. We form a special committee. We execute our own audit. And while we do that, we file a voluntary disclosure with the Attorney General's office, so that when a reporter asks us about the ribbon in 6 weeks, we say we found the door before they did." Cole clicked again. The screen filled with a document from Westbridge's public filings, Prescott Wing Naming Rights Agreement, with a date that dovetailed too neatly with the month Lily had mentioned. Cole highlighted a paragraph about innovative adoption facilitation, language elegant enough to skate on until you put weight on it. A director, with a striped tie, cleared his throat. "If we rush a sale today and this matter becomes news next week, we have an impairment event on the brand we just handed to a buyer. That opens us to claims." He looked at Miranda apologetically, the way men look at storms they can't stop. "I move we exercise the pause clause." "Second," another director said, practically tripping over the word to be first. Miranda turned to Sloane, but the doctor had the expression of an academic suddenly asked to dance in a courtroom, pale, offended by gravity. "We have nothing to hide," he said. "Too late. The motion's on the table," Ing said crisply. "Per policy, it supersedes the current agenda." Votes climbed over one another to be counted. The motion carried. Miranda's smile returned, bright with a different temperature. "Very well," she said. "Noon, then. We reconvene." It wasn't a surrender. It was a retreat to set a different trap. "We reconvene," Grant said, as if it had been his idea, because it had. The meeting dissolved in the careful chaos of people who want to be first to be seen as second guest. Miranda gathered her papers with surgical care. "You made an enemy," she said softly as she breezed past him. A benediction posed as a weather report. "I upgraded one," he answered. Just as soft. Sloane lingered. "Young man," he said, with the faint condescension of someone who believes age is a credential. "Medicine is complicated. So is kidnapping," Grant said. The doctor's face did something ugly and then remembered where it was. In the corridor, Cole fell in beside him. "Prescott will torch the annex before lunch if she can," he said, "but we served notice. If she moves now, it looks like obstruction." "Good," Grant said. "Let her choose which crime." They didn't go back to the penthouse. They went to Kincaid House, where the blue door had been painted so many times by so many hands that its history was a palimpsest of kindness. Ruth Kincaid opened it like a mother opening a window. Lily sat at a kitchen table with a mug she was actually drinking from, Milo in a Moses basket with a crocheted blanket that had soothed 100 small storms. The ribbon lay across his chest like a horizon that stayed. "Someone came to the building," Lily said without preamble. "Courier jacket." Wrong smile. "We used your cloak." "Good," he said. "We used policy." He told her about the pause, about the audit, about Miranda's wrists when she was angry. He didn't tell her his hands shook a little afterward. Courage after the fact always bills you. Ruth set down a loaf of bread and a stack of forms. "You have 2 choices," she told Lily, in a voice that had soothed more scared women than any sterile hallway. "You can give me your name and I will keep it so safe you'll wish I'd forget it, or you can give me a new one for the next 72 hours. Either way, you will not be recorded by anyone who uses an Excel sheet." Lily exhaled. "I like my name," she said. "I'd like to keep it." "Then we keep it," Ruth said, as if that were the easiest thing in the world. Grant watched them and felt, not for the first time, the tug of an old question. He reached into his pocket and unfolded the creased Polaroid, then laid beside it a hospital bracelet Harold had kept and given him on a birthday when Grant was too old to need talismans and too young to know he still did. The plastic's impression, when pressed, left a semicircle on his skin. He held it next to the faint scar on Lily's wrist. Not a match, but a rhyme. "My mother never liked to say the hospital's name," he said. "The birth certificate is a reissue. The original was lost in a flood that happened to take 3 file rooms and no basements." He looked from Ruth to Lily to Milo. If Westbridge did what you say, they didn't start last year. Ruth's eyes flickered, flinty and kind. Harold suspected things he couldn't prove, she said. He built this house for women who don't get believed on purpose. He would be proud of you for spending the company's power on something with no earnings per share. Grant nodded once, a swallow of something that tasted like the last rain of a long storm. If the ribbon opens the door, he said to Lily, we open it with the Attorney General standing there. Lily touched the ribbon. And if it opens something else, then we get to be the people we keep wishing had shown up sooner, he said. The day stretched out, busy and bright. Cole coordinated with the AG's office, with a reporter who knew how to count risk and owed Victoria a favor. Miranda attempted 3 procedural end runs before lunch. Each died in committee, starved by light. By 2, a subpoena had been drafted. By 4, an investigator who wore cheap suits on purpose had a warrant in his breast pocket and a list of rooms with doors that should not exist. At 5, under a clean sky that made last night's rain look like a dream, the city had worked out of its system. They walked the Westbridge corridor, not as thieves, but as witnesses. The North Annex door yielded its blue digits. Behind shelves of gauze and gloves, a second door woke, the bruise glow tolerating company at last. Inside, the cold of a place that expects not to be visited, vacuum-sealed bags, papers arranged by a mind that loved efficiency more than it loved names. Victoria catalogued, the investigator photographed. Sloane, summoned and blustered, attempted a speech no one recorded. Miranda did not come. Her absence wrote its own statement. Here, Ruth said softly, hand on a file. Look, a donor acknowledgement, a wing naming clause, and on a separate page, a list of legacy cases, coded by colors and years. Among the earliest entries, faded but legible, 1 blue, 1,989. Hospital closed. Records merged. No, mother's name. Grant pressed his thumb into the old half-moon of the bracelet and watched a mark bloom that matched a memory more than a shape. He didn't cry. He didn't dramatize. He simply let the room add up out loud. He imagined Harold, steady and impossible to impress, saying, when you're ready to be believed, call me. He hadn't known then that belief sometimes had to be built like a company, one policy and one person at a time. Outside, the sky deepened into an evening that belonged to people who had places to go. They emerged from the annex into air that didn't smell like lemon cleaner. Reporters waited where they were allowed to wait. Cole handled them with the tender brutality of someone who knows a good story is a wild horse. You let it run in the right direction and you don't pretend you invented its legs. Back at Kincaid House, Lily stood in the doorway with Milo, the ribbon now tied to the handle of the Moses basket, not as a secret, but as a banner reclaimed. What happens next? She asked. We get boring, Grant said. Subpoenas, testimony, board governance, a vote where the vote is just a vote. He smiled then, an unadorned human thing, and a place for you that isn't the edge of a storm. People like them don't stop, she said. People like us don't either, he answered. Milo hiccuped and smiled in his sleep. The sound was small and important. Lily's shoulders eased, not with the lie that everything would be fine, but with the truth that enough might. Grant looked at the ribbon and didn't see a map to run from anymore. He saw a line they'd crossed and weren't going back over. The city settled into its nocturne. The penthouse fireplace would be off now, unneeded. The board would reconvene tomorrow, and Miranda would sharpen her smile and lose by procedure. The annex would be emptied, its doors taken from their frames and its blue digits archived as evidence. Harold's photograph would go back on, with a shelf, not as a relic but as a ledger entry balanced. Grant stood on the Kincaid stoop a long moment with Lily by his side, the baby breathing like an argument against despair. It wasn't thunderous or cinematic. It was ordinary and hard-won. Welcome home, Ruth said softly from the doorway, and for once the word didn't make anyone flinch.